Zekthara stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser Crimson Talon and watched the small alien vessel drift through space ahead of them. His four eyes studied the strange ship with interest. It was much smaller than his own vessel, and looked fragile, compared to the thick armor plating of Velthari warships. The hull was white and blue, with strange markings that his translation systems were still trying to decode. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel," said his communications officer Vex Tar. The young Velthari warrior looked nervous as he operated the controls with his six-fingered hands. "Put it through," Zekthara ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 12 star systems for the Velthari Empire. His red skin showed the battle scars of many campaigns, and his tusks were decorated with victory rings from defeated enemies. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the alien ship. Zekthara saw several bipedal creatures with smooth pink and brown skin. They had only 2 eyes each and no visible tusks or claws. They looked incredibly soft and weak to his experienced eye. "Greetings," said one of the creatures. He wore what appeared to be a blue uniform with metal insignia. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. We come in peace and hope to establish friendly relations with your people." Zekthara laughed, a sound like grinding rocks that echoed through his bridge. His crew joined in the laughter. These creatures called themselves humans, and they wanted to talk about peace. How amusing. "I am Commander Zekthara of the Velthari Empire," he replied. "You have entered our territory without permission. Surrender your vessel immediately, and we may spare your lives." The human captain's face remained calm, though Zekthara noticed his jaw muscles tighten slightly. Behind him, other humans worked at their stations. Zekthara could see a female with black hair operating what looked like a pilot's console, a male with dark skin working on some kind of engineering station, and another female speaking quietly into a communication device. "Commander Zekthara, we had no knowledge that this space was claimed by your empire," Captain Morrison said. "Our navigation charts show this as neutral space. Perhaps we can discuss this misunderstanding peacefully." "There is no misunderstanding," Zekthara replied. "The Velthari Empire claims all space we choose to claim. Your people will become subjects of our empire, or they will be destroyed. These are your only options." The human captain looked at his crew members. The female pilot, who Zekthara now heard called Lisa, shook her head slightly. The engineer, Tony, was rapidly typing commands into his console. The communications officer, Amy, was still speaking into her device in hushed tones. "Commander, we cannot accept those terms," Captain Morrison said finally. "We request safe passage from this system. We have no desire for conflict." Zekthara's patience was running out. In his experience, inferior species always tried to negotiate when faced with superior force. It never worked. The Velthari had conquered dozens of worlds using the same approach. Show overwhelming power, demand surrender, then either accept submission or destroy the opposition. It was a simple and effective method. "You have 10 of your time units to surrender," Zekthara announced. "After that, we will take your ship by force." The transmission ended, and Zekthara turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare boarding pods and weapons. These humans look weak, but we should be ready for anything." On the human ship, Captain Morrison was having a quick discussion with his crew. Zekthara could not hear their words, but he could see their body language. They were clearly frightened, as they should be. The Crimson Talon was 50 times larger than their small vessel, and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "Commander," Vexstar reported, "the human ship is transmitting some kind of signal. It appears to be a distress call." "Block it," Zekthara ordered. "I cannot, sir. They are using a transmission method I have never seen before. It is somehow bypassing our jamming systems." This was unusual, but not particularly concerning. Some species had developed clever communication methods. It would not matter once they were captured or destroyed. The 10-time units passed quickly. Zekthara opened communications again and saw the same calm face of Captain Morrison. "Your time is up, human. Do you surrender?" Captain Morrison looked directly into the camera, and for a moment, Zekthara saw something in the human's eyes that made him uncomfortable. It was not fear or desperation. It was something else entirely. "Commander Zekthara," the human said quietly, "you have no idea what you are starting." The transmission cut out. Immediately, the human ship began moving, trying to escape. Zekthara almost laughed again. Their ship was far too slow to outrun his battlecruiser. "Pursue and disable their engines," he commanded. "Prepare boarding parties." The chase was brief. The human ship tried several evasive maneuvers, and Zekthara had to admit they were skillful pilots. The female named Lisa managed to avoid his weapons fire for several minutes, which was impressive for such a small vessel. But the outcome was never in doubt. Velthari weapons finally struck the human ship's engines, and it drifted to a stop. Zekthara's boarding pods launched immediately. His warriors would capture the humans alive for questioning and processing. The boarding action went smoothly. The humans offered no resistance once their ship was disabled. Zekthara's warriors reported that the crew of 12 humans had been captured without casualties on either side. They were brought aboard the Crimson Talon and placed in the detention cells. Zekthara visited the captured humans in their cells. They sat quietly, watching him with those strange two-eyed faces. Captain Morrison stood when Zekthara approached. "Your ship was destroyed trying to escape," Zekthara lied, testing the human's reaction. "Your distress signal was blocked. No one knows what happened to you." Captain Morrison looked at him for a long moment. "Commander, I need you to understand something. That signal you could not block reached its destination. My people know exactly what happened here. They know who you are and where you came from." "Impossible," Zekthara replied. "We monitored all communications." "You monitored the communications you could detect," the human said calmly. "There are others you cannot." Zekthara felt a small twinge of uncertainty, but pushed it aside. Even if the humans had somehow sent a message, what could their people do? One small exploration ship suggested a weak civilization with limited military capability. Over the next 3 days, Zekthara interrogated the human prisoners. They were surprisingly resistant to standard questioning techniques, but eventually, he learned about their species and their government called the United Earth Alliance. The humans claimed to control several dozen star systems, but Zekthara suspected they were lying to make themselves seem more important. The humans talked about their homeworld Earth, describing it as a planet with vast oceans and diverse climates. They spoke of billions of their kind living in large cities and working together in ways that seemed inefficient to Zekthara's military mind. They appeared to be a peaceful species focused on exploration and trade rather than conquest. This confirmed Zekthara's initial assessment. The humans were another soft civilization that had grown comfortable in peacetime. They would be easy to conquer once the Velthari Empire decided to expand into their territory. The capture of this small ship would provide valuable intelligence for future operations. On the 3rd day after the capture, everything changed. Zekthara was enjoying his morning meal when the alarms began screaming throughout his ship. He dropped his food and ran to the bridge, his heavy boots echoing through the corridors. His crew was already at their stations, working frantically. At their controls. "Report," he demanded as he took his command chair. "Commander, massive energy signatures detected at the edge of the system," his sensor operator announced. "Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace." The main screen showed the tactical display of the star system. Zekthara watched in growing amazement as contact after contact appeared on the screen. First 10 ships, then 20, then 50. The numbers kept climbing. How many? He asked. 147 vessels, and still counting, sir. Zekthara stared at the display. This was impossible. No species maintained fleets of this size. Even the Velthari Empire's largest battle. Groups rarely exceeded 50 ships. He had expected perhaps a small rescue force, maybe 5 or 6 vessels at most. Display the fleet composition, he ordered. The tactical screen updated, showing detailed information about the approaching ships. Zekthara's confidence began to crack as he read the data. These were not exploration vessels or merchant ships. Every single contact was a military vessel, ranging from small fast attack craft to massive battleships larger than his own cruiser. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the lead vessel," Vextar reported. His voice was shaking slightly. On screen, the bridge of a human warship appeared on the main display. It was much larger than the bridge of the small exploration vessel, with dozens of crew members working at various stations. The human in command was a female with short gray hair and cold blue eyes. She wore a uniform similar to Captain Morrison's, but with more insignia indicating higher rank. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Earth Alliance Fleet," she said. Her voice was calm and professional, but Zekthara could hear steel underneath the words. "You are Commander Zekthara of the Velthari vessel Crimson Talon. You have captured 12 of our people in an unprovoked attack on a peaceful exploration mission." Zekthara tried to project confidence he was no longer feeling. "Admiral, you are in Velthari space. Your people violated our territory and have been dealt with according to our laws." "Commander, let me explain something to you," Admiral Sullivan replied. "The 12 humans you captured include some of our most skilled explorers and scientists. Captain Morrison has a wife and 2 children waiting for him at home. Engineer Rodriguez just became a father last month. Pilot Chang is getting married. Next year," she paused, and her eyes seemed to look directly through the screen at Zekthara. "These are not just crew members to us, Commander. They are our family, and we have come to bring them home." Zekthara felt a chill run through his body. There was something in the human admiral's voice that reminded him of the way apex predators sounded just before they struck. But that was impossible. These were the same soft creatures he had easily captured just days ago. "You are outnumbered, Admiral," he said, trying to sound confident. "I have a full battle cruiser with superior firepower. Let me show you something, Commander," Admiral Sullivan said. The display changed to show a tactical readout of the system. "My fleet consists of 43 heavy battleships, 62 destroyers, 31 assault carriers, and 11 support vessels. Our combined firepower exceeds your single ship by a factor of approximately 800 to 1. Zekthara stared at the numbers. This was beyond anything he had ever encountered. The logistics alone of maintaining such a fleet should have been impossible for any civilization. "However," the Admiral continued, "we did not come here to destroy you. We came here to retrieve our people. Return them unharmed, and we will consider allowing you to leave this system alive." The casual way she spoke about his survival sent another chill through Zekthara. This was not how negotiations typically went. Usually, the weaker party begged for mercy, while the stronger party made demands. But Admiral Sullivan was speaking as if his life was already in her hands, and she was simply deciding whether or not to close her fist. "I need time to consider your offer," Zekthara said. "You have 1 hour," Admiral Sullivan replied. The transmission ended. Zekthara turned to his crew. Analysis. How did they assemble such a large fleet so quickly? His intelligence officer, A scarred veteran named Cole Vash looked up from his console. "Sir, based on the ship configurations and energy signatures, this fleet was not assembled recently. These vessels have been operating together for some time. They show signs of coordinated training and integrated command systems." "What are you saying?" "Sir, I believe this entire fleet was already deployed and operating as a unit when they received the distress signal. They simply changed course and came here. The implications of this hit Sekthara like a physical blow." The humans maintained, "Battle fleets of this size as standard operational units. How many such fleets did they have? How large was their military in total?" "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "I am detecting multiple encrypted communication channels between the human vessels. The encryption is unlike anything in our databases. We cannot break it. What about their tactical formations?" His tactical officer studied the display for several minutes before responding. "Sir, their formation is completely unknown to me. It does not match any tactical doctrine in our military databases. The ships are positioned in a pattern that should leave them vulnerable to concentrated attack, but I cannot identify where the vulnerabilities are." Sekthara studied the display himself. The human fleet was spread across the system in what looked like a random pattern. There was no clear command structure visible, no obvious weak points, no traditional battle lines. It looked like chaos. But Sekthara had fought enough battles to recognize that this was not random at all. This was something else entirely. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet," Vextar announced. "Put it through." This time, the screen showed a different human. This one was male with dark hair and intense brown eyes. He wore a different style of uniform that Sekthara did not recognize. "Commander Sekthara, I am Colonel Ryan Brooks, commanding the 3rd Marine Assault Group. My troops are trained specifically for ship-to-ship combat and hostile boarding operations. We have studied the design of your vessel type and have developed specific tactics for capturing Velthari ships intact." The human paused, and Sekthara saw something in his eyes that made his blood freeze. It was the look of a hunter who had already selected his prey and was simply waiting for the right moment to strike. "Commander, I want you to understand something," Colonel Brooks continued. "We know the exact location of your detention cells. We know how many crew members you have and where they are stationed. We know the layout of your ship better than you might think. We have been preparing for this conversation for the past 3 days." "Impossible," Sekthara said. "You could not have such detailed information." "Commander, your ship broadcasts telemetry data continuously for navigation and safety purposes. Did you know that? Most species do the same thing. It makes space travel safer for everyone." The human smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "We have been listening to your ship talk to itself since the moment you captured our people." The transmission ended, leaving Sekthara staring at a blank screen. His crew looked at him with growing fear in their eyes. This was not how first contact scenarios were supposed to develop. The humans should have been grateful that he was willing to negotiate at all. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, "the human fleet is moving into attack formation." Sekthara looked at the tactical display. The seemingly random pattern of human ships was shifting, and now he could see the truth. It had never been random at all. The humans had been surrounding his ship from the moment they arrived, and he had been too blind to see it. He was trapped. Sekthara made his decision quickly. He would not surrender to these humans, regardless of their numbers. The Velthari Empire had not conquered half the galaxy by backing down from fights. He was a warrior, and he would die as one if necessary. "All stations battle ready," he commanded. "Charge weapons and raise shields. We will show these humans what happens when they threaten the Velthari Empire." His crew responded immediately, their training taking over despite their fear. The Crimson Talon was a powerful warship with weapons capable of destroying entire cities. Even outnumbered, they could inflict serious damage on the human fleet before being overwhelmed. "Sir, the humans are hailing us again," Vextar reported. "Ignore them. Target the largest human vessel and prepare to fire." But before he could give the order to attack, something impossible happened. Small human fighters began appearing on his sensors, moving at speeds that should have torn them apart. These tiny ships swarmed around his battlecruiser like insects, too fast and too small for his main weapons to target effectively. "How are they moving so fast?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their acceleration rates exceed anything in our databases." Zekthara watched the tactical display in growing amazement. The human fighters were not just fast, they were impossibly agile. They moved in three-dimensional patterns that defied everything he knew about space combat. His point defense weapons fired desperately, but the small ships seemed to anticipate where the shots would be, and were already somewhere else when the energy beams arrived. "Sir, multiple impacts on our shields," his tactical officer reported. "The human fighters are somehow penetrating our defensive screens. That is impossible. Our shields can stop anything short of a direct hit from a capital ship weapon. Nevertheless, sir, they are getting through. Shield strength down to 80% and falling." Zekthara stared at the display in disbelief. The human fighters were using weapons that should not have been able to affect his ship at all. Each individual shot was tiny, but there were hundreds of them striking his shields every second. It was like being attacked by a swarm of poisonous insects. "Sir, incoming transmission from the lead fighter squadron," Vextar announced, his voice cracking with stress. "Put it through." The main screen showed the cockpit of one of the human fighters. The pilot was a young male with blonde hair and calm green eyes. Behind him, Zekthara could see the impossible speed at which the fighter was moving, the stars streaking past in blurred lines. "Commander Zekthara, this is Lieutenant Ben Carter of the 47th Fighter Squadron," the human said. His voice was steady despite the extreme maneuvers his ship was performing. "I want you to understand something about human military doctrine." The fighter spun through a series of turns that would have killed any Velthari pilot, but the human continued speaking as if he were sitting still. "We do not believe in fair fights, Commander. We believe in winning. Every weapon, every tactic, every advantage we can gain, we will use." Another voice came through the communication system, this one female. "Commander, this is Commander Sarah Walsh aboard the U.E.'s Digital Storm. While Lieutenant Carter has been keeping you distracted, my crew has been inside your computer systems for the past 10 minutes. Zekthara felt the blood drain from his face. Impossible. Velthari systems are completely secure. "Commander, we wrote the code that is running your ship's computers right now," the female voice replied. "Your people purchased navigation software from a human company 12 years ago. You never realized that the software reports everything back to us. Suddenly, systems throughout the Crimson Talon began malfunctioning. Lights flickered, gravity fluctuated, and weapon systems powered down randomly. Zekthara's crew worked frantically at their controls, but nothing responded properly. "Sir, we are losing control of ship systems," his engineering officer reported. "Something is rewriting our command codes." "How is this possible?" "Sir, the humans are broadcasting something directly into our computer networks. Our firewalls cannot stop it." On the main screen, Commander Walsh continued speaking. "Commander, human warfare is not about honor or glory. It is about making the enemy unable to fight back. We have been studying your technology since the moment you captured our people. We know every weakness, every vulnerability, every way to turn your own systems against you." Zekthara tried to regain control of the situation. All crew switched to manual systems, emergency protocols. But even as his crew worked to bypass their automated systems, new problems appeared. The ship's life support began cycling randomly. Artificial gravity shifted from deck to deck. Communication systems played strange sounds that hurt Velthari ears. "Sir," Vextar called out, "I am receiving hundreds of transmissions from the human fleet. They are broadcasting recordings." "What kind of recordings?" "Sir, these appear to be historical documents from other species that have fought the Velthari Empire. Battle records, tactical analyses, survivor testimonies. They know about every campaign we have ever fought." Zekthara listened in horror. As human voices read detailed reports of Velthari military operations going back decades, they knew about the conquest of the Zephyrian homeworld. They knew about the subjugation of the crystal miners of Kepler 442. They knew about military secrets that were classified at the highest levels of the Velthari command structure. How do they have this information? He whispered, his intelligence. Officer looked up from his console with fear in all four eyes. "Sir, based on the detail and accuracy of these reports, the humans have been studying us for years. This is not information they could have gathered recently. They have been preparing for this encounter for a very long time." The realization hit Zekthara like a physical blow. The humans had not simply responded to the distress call from the exploration ship. They had been watching the Velthari Empire, learning about them, preparing for eventual contact. The encounter with the Liberty had not been a chance meeting. In neutral space, it had been a trap. "Sir, we are being boarded," his security chief announced. "Human soldiers have somehow penetrated our hull in multiple locations." "How many?" "Unknown, sir. Our internal sensors are malfunctioning. I cannot get accurate readings." Zekthara could hear weapons fire echoing through the corridors of his ship, but it was not the continuous roar of battle he expected. Instead, there were brief, sharp exchanges followed by silence. The humans were not fighting their way through his ship. They were moving through it like shadows, striking precisely, and then vanishing. "Sir, human soldiers have reached detention level," came a report from one of his security teams. "They are freeing the prisoners. Stop them." "Sir, we cannot. They seem to know the layout of our ship better than we do. They are using passages and service tunnels that do not appear on our own maps." Through the ship's internal communications, Zekthara could hear his security teams trying to coordinate a response. But every time they moved to intercept the humans, they found empty corridors. The intruders were always one step ahead, always somewhere else. "Sir, this is Security Team 7, came a panicked voice over the COM system. "The humans are not just soldiers. They have some kind of specialists with them. They are modifying our systems as they move through the ship." "What do you mean?" "Sir, they are reprogramming our automated defenses. Our own security systems are now working for them instead of us." Zekthara watched his tactical display as red warning indicators spread throughout the ship. Critical systems were falling under human control, one by one. The humans were not just boarding his vessel. They were taking it over completely. "Commander," came a new voice over the communication system. This one was calm and professional, with a slight accent that Zekthara did not recognize. "This is Sergeant Nick Taylor, 3rd Marine Regiment. My team has secured your detention level and freed our people. We are now moving to secure your bridge." "You will never take this ship," Zekthara replied. "Commander, we already have taken your ship. We are just deciding what to do with it now." The lights on the bridge dimmed, and Zekthara realized that the humans now controlled even the basic life support systems. He was trapped in his own command center, surrounded by enemies who moved like ghosts and fought like demons. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss, and Captain Jake Morrison walked in. He was not wearing the same blue uniform Zekthara remembered from their first meeting. Instead, He wore dark combat gear with various equipment attached to it. Behind him came two human soldiers carrying weapons that looked far more advanced than anything in the Velthari arsenal. What shocked Zekthara most was that Morrison looked completely calm. His face showed no anger, no hatred, not even satisfaction at turning the tables on his captor. He looked like a professional doing his job. "Commander Zekthara," Morrison said as he approached the command chair, "we need to talk." "You were my prisoner," Zekthara said, his voice shaking with confusion and rage. "How did you escape? How did your people find us so quickly?" Morrison gestured for Zekthara to remain seated, then pulled up a portable display device. "Commander, I want to show you something. This is a recording of our initial encounter 3 days ago." The device showed the Bridge of the Liberty during their first meeting. As Zekthara watched himself making threats, while the human crew worked at their stations. But now he could see details he had missed before. The engineer Tony was not just working on repairs. He was installing something into the ship's systems. The communications officer Amy was not just sending a distress signal. She was uploading massive amounts of data. "What am I looking at?" Zekthara asked. "Tony installed a quantum transmitter into our ship's core systems before you captured us," Morrison explained. "Every conversation we had, every scan you ran of, our ship, every piece of information you gathered about human technology was immediately transmitted to our fleet command." The display changed to show technical readouts that hurt Zekthara's eyes to look at. Amy was not just calling for help. She was providing our military intelligence division with a complete analysis of your ship, your weapons, your crew complement, and your tactical doctrine. Zekthara stared at the data in disbelief. "You were spying on us while you were our prisoners." "Commander, we were never really your prisoners. We were advanced scouts." Morrison's voice remained calm and professional. "The Liberty was not an exploration ship. It was bait." The horrible truth began to dawn on Zekthara. "You wanted us to capture you. We knew the Velthari Empire was expanding in this direction. Our long-range sensors detected your fleets months ago. We needed to know what kind of enemy we were dealing with, so we sent the Liberty to make contact and gather intelligence." Morrison touched his device again, and the display showed star charts with Velthari fleet movements marked in red. "We have been tracking your empire's expansion for 2 years, Commander. We know the location of every one of your military bases, every supply depot, every fleet formation. We know your production capabilities, your resource requirements, and your strategic objectives." "Impossible," Zekthara whispered. "Our operations are classified at the highest levels." "Commander, let me explain something about human intelligence gathering," Morrison said. He gestured to one of the soldiers behind him. "This is Corporal Maya Collins, one of our systems specialists. Maya, tell the commander what you found in his computer networks." The human female stepped forward. She was small and looked young, but her eyes held the same professional confidence as Morrison's. "Commander, your people use a centralized communication system for fleet coordination. Every message sent between Velthari ships passes through relay stations that amplify and retransmit the signals." She activated her own device, showing network diagrams that made Zekthara's head spin. "What your people do not realize is that those relay stations were built using components purchased from human manufacturers. We have been reading your military communications for over a year." The implications hit Zekthara like a series of physical blows. The humans had not just been preparing for this encounter. They had been preparing for war with the entire Velthari Empire. "How many of your people know about us?" he asked. Morrison and Collins exchanged a look. "Commander, the United Earth Alliance has a population of approximately 40 billion people spread across 67 star systems. Our military consists of roughly 500 million active personnel supported by automated production facilities. That can build warships faster than we can train crews to operate them. Zekthara felt his world crumbling around him. The Velthari Empire had perhaps 50 million military personnel total, and their shipbuilding capacity was a fraction of what Morrison was describing. But that is not what should concern you most, Morrison continued. Commander, humans are not a peaceful species that happen to develop advanced technology. We are a species that evolved for warfare and then applied that evolution to space. Combat. The human captain began pacing around the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. On our homeworld, Commander, we spent millions of years hunting animals larger and stronger than ourselves. We learned to work together in groups, to plan complex ambushes, to use tools and tactics to overcome superior physical strength. He stopped in front of Zekthara's chair. Then we started hunting each other. For thousands of years, Commander, humans fought wars against other humans. We learned to anticipate how intelligent enemies think. We learned to turn their own strengths against them. We learned to adapt our tactics faster than our opponents could respond. Morrison gestured around the bridge. Every aspect of your military doctrine is based on the assumption that superior firepower wins battles. You build bigger ships, more powerful weapons, stronger armor. You fight the way most species fight. And how do humans fight? Zekthara asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer would terrify him. We fight to win, Commander. Not to prove our strength or defend our honor. We fight to completely eliminate the enemy's ability to threaten us. We use every advantage, every weakness, every psychological pressure we can find. Collins stepped forward again. Commander, while we have been talking, our fleet has been analyzing the quantum signatures of every Velthari ship in this system. We now have the technical specifications needed to track any Velthari vessel anywhere in the galaxy. We know how to find you, Morrison added. We know how to disable your ships without destroying them. We know how to turn your own systems against you. And most importantly, we know that you now know all of this. Zekthara finally understood the true horror of his situation. You want me to return to the Empire and tell them what happened here? Exactly, Morrison nodded. Commander, we could destroy your ship and everyone on it. We could hunt down every Velthari fleet and eliminate your entire military. We have the capability to do that. He paused, and his calm professional expression became something much more frightening. But that would be wasteful. Instead, we want you to go back to your leaders and explain what you learned here. We want you to tell them that humans are not another species to be conquered. Morrison leaned closer to Zekthara's chair. We want you to tell them that if they choose to continue their expansion toward human space, they will be fighting an enemy that has spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of warfare. An enemy that sees every battle as a problem to be solved rather than a contest to be won. And if we withdraw from this region of space, Zekthara asked, then we will leave you alone, Morrison replied. We have no interest in conquering your empire, Commander. We have plenty of space and resources in our own territory, but we will not allow you to threaten human colonies or human ships. Morrison straightened up and activated his communication device. Admiral Sullivan, this is Captain Morrison. The Velthari commander is ready to depart. Please prepare his ship for jump to hyperspace. Through the bridge speakers came the voice of Admiral Sullivan. Understood, Captain. Commander Zekthara, your ship's systems are being restored to normal operation. Your crew has not been harmed, and your vessel is undamaged. You are free to return to Velthari space. Why? Zekthara asked. Why are you letting us go? Morrison looked at him with something that might have been pity. Because, Commander, we are not monsters. We are just very, very good at fighting when we have to. The journey back to Velthari space took 12 days. 12 days of silence on the bridge of the Crimson Talon, as Zikthara stared at the stars and tried to process what had happened to him. His crew worked quietly at their stations, avoiding eye contact with their commander. They all knew that something fundamental had changed, but none of them wanted to talk about it. Zikthara spent most of those days reviewing the data his ship had collected during the encounter with the human fleet. The numbers made no sense according to everything he knew about space warfare. The humans had moved ships weighing millions of tons as if they were small fighters. They had coordinated the actions of nearly 200 vessels with precision that seemed impossible. Most disturbing of all, they had done it while maintaining constant communication with what appeared to be dozens of other fleets scattered across their territory. "Sir, we are approaching the outer border of Velthari space," his navigation officer reported. "Take us directly to High Command," Zikthara ordered. Maximum speed. The Velthari capital world of Kethmoran appeared on the main screen 2 days later. It was a harsh planet of red deserts and towering mountain ranges, perfect for breeding. The warrior race that had conquered so much of the galaxy. The massive orbital stations that surrounded the planet bristled with weapons and defensive systems. It should have been a reassuring sight, but now Zikthara looked at those defenses and wondered how long they would last against a human attack. The High Command building was a massive structure carved directly into the side of a mountain. Zikthara walked through corridors lined with the battle standards of conquered worlds, past monuments celebrating 1,000 victories. Everything around him spoke of Velthari dominance and military superiority. Everything felt like a lie. The Council of War was already assembled when he arrived. 5 of the most powerful military leaders in the Empire sat around a circular table, their scarred faces and decorated tusks showing the experience of countless campaigns. At the head of the table sat Supreme Commander Thekvar, the legendary warrior who had personally led the conquest of the Centauri sector. "Commander Zikthara," Thekvar said in his deep voice, "your report was most unusual. Tell us again about these humans." Zikthara had spent the entire journey preparing for this moment, but standing before the Council of War, he struggled to find the right words. How could he explain what he had witnessed to warriors who had never experienced defeat? "Supreme Commander, the humans are not what they appear to be," he began. "They look weak and soft, but they fight like nothing we have ever encountered." "You were outnumbered," said General Kravash, the conqueror of the vegan colonies. "Any commander can be overwhelmed by superior numbers." "It was not just their numbers," Zikthara replied. "It was how they used those numbers. They moved their entire fleet as if it were a single organism. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment." He activated his personal display device and showed the tactical recordings from the battle. "Watch how they coordinate their attacks. There is no delay for communication between ships. They react to changing conditions faster than should be physically possible." The council members leaned forward to study the display. Zikthara could see confusion in their eyes as they tried to understand what they were seeing. "Their small fighters somehow penetrated our shields," he continued. "Their computer specialists took control of our systems within minutes. They knew the layout of our ship better than we did." "Impossible," said Admiral Vexthul, the hero of the Battle of Wolf 359. "Velthari systems are completely secure." "That is what I thought," Zikthara said. He showed them the recordings of Commander Walsh explaining how human companies had been building components for Velthari computers for years. "They have been inside our networks since before we knew they existed." The silence in the room was deafening. These were warriors who had built their careers on the assumption that Velthari technology was superior to anything in the galaxy. The idea that an unknown species had been spying on them for years was almost impossible to accept. "What do you recommend?" Supreme Commander Thekvar asked. Zekthara took a deep breath. Supreme Commander, I recommend that we avoid human space entirely. These are not a species we can conquer through conventional military action. Explain. Supreme Commander, humans are not like other species we have encountered. Most civilizations develop technology first and then learn to fight with it. Humans learned to fight first and then developed technology to make their fighting more effective. He showed them more recordings from his conversation with Captain Morrison. They spent millions of years as persistence hunters on their homeworld. They would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Then they started hunting each other. They fought wars that lasted decades and involved hundreds of millions of their own kind. General Krov Ash laughed, a sound like grinding stone. So they fight among themselves. That makes them weak, not strong. No, General, it makes them experienced. They have fought against enemies who think like they do, who use the same tactics, who adapt as quickly as they adapt. Every human military officer has studied thousands of years of warfare between highly intelligent opponents. Zekthara activated another display, showing the size estimates of the human military. They have a population of 40 billion people, Supreme Commander. Their military consists of 500 million active personnel. They have automated shipyards that can produce warships faster than we can build them. Numbers can be overcome with superior tactics, said Admiral Vexthol. What tactics? Zekthara asked. They knew every tactic we would use before we used it. They had studied our military doctrine and developed specific countermeasures for every standard Velthari battle formation. He showed them the recordings of Lieutenant Carter explaining human fighter tactics. They do not believe in fair fights. They use every advantage they can find. They turn our own systems against us. They attack our weaknesses while avoiding our strengths. Supreme Commander Thekvar studied the tactical displays for several minutes. Commander, you are asking us to abandon our expansion into an entire sector of space because of one encounter with a single human fleet. Supreme Commander, it was not a single fleet. While we were fighting, I detected communications between the human ships and at least 12 other fleet formations. They have military forces positioned throughout their territory, all ready to respond to threats within bays. Zekthara paused, then played the final recording from his encounter. It showed Captain Morrison explaining how humans had been tracking Velthari expansion for 2 years. They knew we were coming before we knew they existed, he said quietly. They prepared for war with us while we were still discovering their first exploration ships. They have been 3 steps ahead of us from the beginning. The Council of War fell silent again. Finally, Supreme Commander Thekvar spoke. Commander, assuming your assessment is correct, what do you believe these humans want? They want us to leave them alone, Supreme Commander. They made it clear that they have no interest in conquering our territory. They have sufficient resources in their own space, but they will not allow us to threaten their colonies or their ships. And if we refuse? Zekthara met the Supreme Commander's gaze. Then we will be fighting an enemy that has spent its entire evolutionary history learning how to win wars. An enemy that sees every battle as a problem to be solved rather than a contest of strength. An enemy that will use every possible advantage to ensure our complete defeat. He stood up straighter. Supreme Commander, I have fought in 43 campaigns for the glory of the Velthari Empire. I have never retreated from battle. I have never counseled surrender. But I am telling you now that if we go to war with humanity, we will lose. The room remained silent for a long time. Finally, Supreme Commander Thekvar made his decision. The expansion into Sector 7 is hereby suspended pending further intelligence gathering. All fleets in that region are ordered to withdraw to defensive positions. We will monitor human activity, but will avoid direct contact. As Zikthara left the council chamber, he knew that he had probably saved his people from destruction. But he also knew that the galaxy had changed forever. For the first time in Velthari history, they had encountered a species that was simply better at warfare than they were. Standing on the observation deck of the High Command building, looking out at the stars, Zikthara thought about the human, Admiral Sullivan, and her calm promise to consider letting him live. He thought about Captain Morrison, explaining that humans were not monsters, just very good at fighting when they had to. He thought about the terrible efficiency with which the human fleet had demonstrated their superiority. Somewhere out there among those stars, humanity was watching and waiting. They knew where every Velthari ship was located. They could track any vessel anywhere in the galaxy. And they had made it clear that they would respond to any threat with overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. The Velthari Empire would survive, but it would never again expand without first asking a single question. Are there humans in that direction? And that question, Zikthara knew, would haunt his people for generations to come.